Hello and welcome to This Really Happened, a place where unbelievable, heart-touching true stories come to life. Sometimes surprising, sometimes bittersweet, always real. Grab a drink and settle in. We're about to begin. Sarah lived with her father. At the age of 6, her mother left their home, moving to Italy with her new husband. 16 years had passed since then, but not once had she remembered her daughter's birthday. Now Sarah was 22, preparing to finish her university course, and cherished the dream of becoming a financier like her father, or rather, of eventually taking his place in managing his own banking empire. However, first she was to have internships in England, then in Belgium, and only after that did her father promise to take her under his wing. Her entire life, from 9 to 17, was scheduled with almost military precision. An elite gymnasium with intensive language study, music school lessons, swimming training. Once a week, an economics and law tutor invariably came. With such a rhythm, the girl had practically no time for a personal life, for friendly meetings, which her father clearly found satisfying. He jealously guarded his daughter from outside gazes, especially from members of the opposite sex, and even when Sarah was already studying at university, her every step was under constant scrutiny. Sarah's only escape, her only friend, was the neighbour's daughter, Chloe. Their communication was limited to the territory of either Chloe's or Sarah's yard. This continued until a postgraduate student named Daniel appeared on their university horizon. The young man was working on his dissertation and occasionally visited his academic advisor, who, by coincidence, held the position of dean of Sarah's faculty. Their meeting happened at the dean's office door. Daniel was just leaving, and Sarah was about to enter. They literally bumped heads. Usually composed and sensible, Sarah felt an uncharacteristic confusion at the sight of the stranger. "Excuse me, for heaven's sake, I almost knocked you over," the girl said hastily. "No, it was me who almost knocked you down. 1,000 apologies," the young man replied in turn. "Oh, how awkward. Is Dean Miller in?" "Yes, I've just come from him. Please go in." "Thank you." "Wait," the young man said unexpectedly. "Perhaps, as a sign of reconciliation and mutual apologies, we could have a cup of coffee." Sarah, unaccustomed to such displays of attention, looked at the stranger in surprise. "Coffee?" she repeated. "Yes? Or don't you like it?" "Why, yes, I do. It's just that it's somehow—" Sarah tried to find the right word, not knowing how to explain that this was the first time she had been invited to such a meeting. "Unexpected?" "Not at all. A beautiful girl like you has surely heard such a proposal many times." "Well, yes," Sarah said blushingly, and unexpectedly for herself added, "All right, let's have coffee. We'll meet in the foyer in about 20 minutes. "Excellent. I'll be waiting for you." Sarah would remember this trembling feeling, born of meeting the young man, very often afterwards. She had never experienced anything like it before. And it wasn't just because of her father's restrictions. No, she genuinely hadn't had the time. And now she was essentially a graduate. England loomed on the horizon, and suddenly there was a strong desire to talk to this young man. Having finished her conversation with the dean, Sarah went down to the foyer, where her new acquaintance was already waiting. "Sorry to keep you waiting. I was a little delayed." Daniel almost dropped his briefcase. It was the first time he had seen a girl apologize for being 2 minutes late. He had waited much longer, and the girls not only didn't apologize, but seemed not to know how to. "Nonsense, you're not late," the young man smiled. "Shall we introduce ourselves?" "Oh, how absent-minded of me. I completely forgot to introduce myself," Sarah blushed again and extended her hand. Sarah. Then I'm absent-minded too. I didn't introduce myself either. The young man smiled and extended his hand in return. Daniel. Very nice to meet you, Sarah smiled, and a light blush touched her cheeks from his touch. His hand was surprisingly soft, warm, so pleasant. Sarah felt a strong tremor and, frightened by the surging, incomprehensible feelings, quickly withdrew her hand. Daniel interpreted this in his own way. Excuse me, was my handshake unpleasant? No, not at all. It's just that we somehow shook hands for too long. Sarah tried to wriggle out of it. Let's go get coffee finally. Let's, Daniel agreed, smiling. He liked this unusual girl. They left the university building and stopped in some confusion. There were 4 cafes nearby, and they had to decide where to go. Sarah, accustomed to establishments of a different level, suggested without hesitation, "Let's go to the Pegasus. We can have a proper lunch there, it's about time. Do you mind?" Daniel looked at his new acquaintance with even greater surprise. The Pegasus? He had only walked past such restaurants. He knew perfectly well that it was a special place, and the prices there were, to put it mildly, far from a student budget. But admitting his strained financial situation was extremely embarrassing, so he just nodded in agreement, vaguely wondering how he would pay in this expensive establishment. But an even greater astonishment awaited Daniel inside the restaurant. It suddenly became clear that Sarah was not just a guest here, but a regular. She had her favorite table, and the waiters greeted her like a distinguished personage. "You come to this restaurant often?" Daniel asked in surprise. "Yes, Dad and I often have lunch and dinner here. They have wonderful chefs. You don't have to worry about the quality of the food at all." "So you—" Dad says, "Ah, I see. That's good." Daniel now began to worry. Of course, he understood that students from all sorts of backgrounds attended the university, but Sarah didn't give the impression of a flighty rich girl who attended classes just for the degree and passed exams by paying. And this simply didn't fit into his head. "Sarah, why did you choose such an unusual profession for a girl?" "Rather, the profession chose me," Sarah smiled. Within the walls of this restaurant, she felt more confident, almost at home. With Daniel, the situation was the exact opposite. He grew up in a simple working-class family, but his parents saw ability in their son and insisted on him getting a good education. He even managed to get a state-funded place after the army and receive an increased scholarship. And then his talent was noticed by the professors, and the young man, as they say, went uphill. And now, at 28, he was already writing his dissertation. "I see. Do your parents work in this field?" Daniel clarified. "Yes, Dad does, but honestly, I like this field too. Probably genes played a role. Although as a child, I dreamed of becoming an actress or a singer. Many girls dream of that as children, that's true. Daniel, let's order something. Otherwise, I'll faint from hunger soon. What do you prefer?" Sarah asked and handed him the menu folder. "Honestly, I'm not hungry," Daniel replied, although he was incredibly hungry. He definitely wouldn't be able to pay for his lunch, but for a couple of cups of coffee, he could. "Idiot! You'll have to pay for her lunch. You can't say, 'Excuse me, Sarah, I'm only paying for my coffee.'" Nightmare. Where will I get that much money? Daniel was horrified inwardly. Sarah, as if reading his thoughts, said, "Don't worry, lunch is on me. I invited you here myself. Order whatever you like. Don't be shy." True, feeling like a poor freeloader was even more humiliating than just being poor. But Daniel had genuinely taken a liking to this girl, even before she brought him to this restaurant, and he really didn't know what to do. Sarah came to the rescue. "Daniel, listen, It's okay. Don't make me feel awkward because I invited you here. I honestly did it completely out of habit. All right, then next time I'll invite and I'll pay. Deal? Next time? Sarah couldn't believe her ears. Of course, if you accept my invitation. Of course I will, the girl replied shyly. Sarah couldn't yet imagine how she would manage this or what she would tell her father. She simply wasn't thinking about it now. She wanted only one thing, to prolong her time with this nice young man as much as possible. He was very interesting, intelligent, well-read. They spoke the same language and understood each other perfectly. About half an hour into their conversation, the phone rang and Sarah suddenly remembered that she hadn't called her father after classes. She hastily grabbed her phone. "Hi, Dad. Sorry I'm a bit late. I was just about to call." She rattled into the receiver in one breath. "Hi, dear. Where are you now?" her father asked. "Dropped into our restaurant for lunch." "Excellent. I'll be there in half an hour. Wait for me, please." "Yes, okay, I'll wait." Sarah looked fearfully at the phone, then at Daniel, and put the device back in her bag in confusion. "Something wrong?" Daniel understood from her expression. "I don't even know how to say it. My father will be here in half an hour." "Is he strict?" "Very." That was putting it mildly, but Sarah changed her mind. How to put it? Not very strict, but a little strict. "Are you afraid he'll see us together?" Daniel realized. Sarah looked at her new acquaintance hopefully. She so wanted to stay with him a little longer, just talk. But how could she explain this to Dad? "I won't be able to explain who you are to him," Sarah squeezed out. "Does he forbid you from seeing guys?" The young man showed a wonderful perception again. "Yes," Sarah exhaled. "I understand. That's not a problem. Let's meet another time. I understand what strict parents are like. Don't worry and don't be upset. We'll definitely have lunch or dinner together again." He took a pen and notebook from his briefcase, quickly wrote down his phone number, and handed it to Sarah. "Call me when you have a chance to meet." "Okay, I will. I'll find a way," Sarah said, and added a little quieter. "Sorry it turned out like this, and thank you for understanding. I'm really very awkward about it." "It's all right. I have to run. Nice meeting you, Sarah." "I was very happy to meet you too," Sarah smiled back, although in reality she wanted to cry from annoyance that their conversation had been cut short so quickly. After Daniel left, Sarah just sat and looked out the window. She was waiting for her father. Maybe I should talk to him frankly. Tell him I met a guy. He's not just anyone, he's a postgraduate student, so he's smart. Dad should like him. Sarah comforted herself, and then immediately talked herself out of it. Aha, and if I remember Alex, I don't even want to introduce him anymore. Alex was a guy who once came to visit their neighbours. He was only a couple of years older than Sarah. They were 15 and 17 respectively at the time. But Dad decided that Alex was bothering Sarah and kicked him out. Yes, he just took him and threw him out of the house, and he strictly ordered Sarah no dates, no meetings until she finished her education. But now she practically had her diploma in hand. Maybe Dad had changed his attitude, and now it was possible. Sarah decided to take a risk and talk to her father openly. Her father arrived exactly half an hour after the call. You could always set your watch by him. Surprisingly, even when stuck in traffic, he could accurately determine his arrival time. Mr. Peterson, that was Sarah's father's name, came to the table and kissed his daughter on the cheek. "Hello, dear. How are things at university? How are you feeling?" "Hi, Dad. I need to talk to you." Sarah decided to get straight to the point, fearing her resolve would soon leave her. "Important?" her father clarified. Probably, Sarah evaded a direct answer. Well, well, I have something important to talk to you about too. Who wants to start? Can I? Sarah asked for permission, not even imagining what her father wanted to tell her. Of course, Sunshine. I'm listening carefully. What's wrong? You see, it's like this. Remember you told me not to see anyone until I finished my education? I remember, her father replied and smiled. It seems our thoughts are aligned. Seriously? Sarah rejoiced prematurely. That's great. Anyway, I met a guy today. He's a postgraduate student, writing his dissertation with my dean. We talked a bit. He's a very interesting, educated young man. He's 28, served in the army, earns his own living, and is writing a very serious dissertation. Mr. Peterson's face changed, and he frowned more and more. Sarah saw that her father wasn't interested in this story, but what he said next, Sarah didn't like at all. What's all this story leading to? Her father clarified. I wanted to ask your permission to see Daniel. You won't object, will you? I'm leaving for England in 2 months, and I'd like to relax a bit after studying and just spend time with a nice young man. You will have such an opportunity. That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about, her father began in a tone that made Sarah uneasy. You've finished your education. You have internships in Europe ahead of you, and it wouldn't be very good if you went there as an unmarried girl. Therefore, I would like to introduce you to a very interesting young man. His name is James. He's older than you, of course, but he's smart, well off, promising, and will be a reliable protection and support for you. Sarah stared at her father in astonishment. She absolutely didn't understand what he was talking about. He's seen you, and he likes you very much. We've already discussed all the intricacies and nuances of your life together. Both of us are satisfied. All that's left is for you to meet and set a wedding date. Dad, wait. What wedding? I don't want to marry a money bag. I want to marry for love. Sarah tried to object. No problem. You'll see him and fall in love immediately. He's a very decent man and attractive. I don't need decent attractive. I need someone I choose with my heart. Listen to me, child. I already chose your mother with my heart. And how did that end? What does that have to do with anything? It has to do with the fact that you should choose with your head, not your heart. The heart is a bad advisor, a very bad one. But I don't want to live with someone I don't like. Why do you think you won't like him? Dad, how old is he? 32, only 10 years older than you. Is that a lot? No, Sarah answered honestly. Dad, but I like Daniel. Listen, you saw this Daniel for the first time in your life today. It's quite possible that you won't like him at all upon closer acquaintance. Besides, for comparison, you can meet James, and then you can decide for yourself who you prefer. Or maybe you'll like James, or you'll reject him from the start because I'm suggesting him. No, of course not. I'll definitely meet him. It's just unexpected. Agreed. Unexpected. I haven't gotten used to the idea of you getting married myself yet. I'm not getting married yet, Sarah objected. But you might, her father corrected himself, although it was obvious that he had already made the decision. Dad, can I ask another question? Of course. And if I really don't like James, and Daniel turns out to be a good person, can I marry Daniel? Mr. Peterson looked at his daughter in surprise, as if mentally asking, Are you serious or just mocking me? Of course not, but he said something else aloud. I think you can, but I also need to meet your Daniel and see what he's like. Okay, thank you. What are you thanking me for? For hope? Hope. Hope, her father said thoughtfully. Everyone has the right to hope. But life often throws such curveballs, and hopes don't come true. That's the truth of life, alas. I don't like that kind of truth, Sarah said with childish resentment. All right, Let's have lunch, then we'll go home. And by evening, you need to get ready. James will be coming over. Today? Sarah couldn't believe it. Of course. Why delay? You need to spend at least a little time together before the wedding. Get used to each other. At that moment, Sarah clearly understood that her father wouldn't even consider other candidates. He had already decided everything, and no Daniel, Basil, or Andrew had a single chance, because a certain James had already been appointed to the role of husband. This was the most offensive thing. Sarah had been deprived not only of hope, but also of the right to choose. Sarah drove home completely out of sorts. It felt like a steamroller had run over her, just crushed her completely. Sarah knew her father's character perfectly well and understood that further conversations on this topic were pointless. The only thing she would achieve was that her father would intensify his control, and the chance to meet Daniel would disappear without a trace. And Sarah really didn't want that. So she decided to play along with her father, pretend that she liked James. Her father would relax and let down his guard, which Sarah would certainly take advantage of. Sarah waited for the evening with unusual excitement. On the one hand, she was curious to see the man her father was pushing on her as a husband. On the other hand, she was afraid of what would happen if she absolutely didn't like him. After all, no arguments worked on her father if he had already made up his mind. James was supposed to arrive at 8. Her father told Sarah to be ready and dress formally. Sarah didn't object and got herself completely ready. She even wanted to make an impression on the uninvited guest. James arrived exactly at 8, as befits a polite and punctual gentleman. Sarah was descending from the second floor, feeling terribly nervous. She entered the living room and saw James standing half-turned. A tall, well-built, quite handsome young man. He turned around, and Sarah froze in place. On his left cheek was a huge scar, starting below his eye and ending on his lower jaw. The scar was deep and very noticeable. How awful, Sarah thought, barely restraining herself from saying it aloud. Sarah, my dear, meet James, my partner in some financial matters. I turned to James. Jim, this is my beautiful daughter, Sarah. Meet each other. I need to step out for a couple of minutes. Her father left, and Sarah stood rooted to the spot on the threshold of the living room. She simply couldn't move from the shock. James started to approach, and Sarah wanted to scream and call for help. But of course she didn't, realizing how foolish it would look. Likewise, but I'm meeting you for the first time today, Sarah said sarcastically. James pretended not to catch the sarcasm and gestured towards the sofa. Shall we sit? Let's. When they sat down on the sofa, with Sarah sitting about a meter away from the guest, James looked at the girl searchingly and said unexpectedly directly, Sarah, I know what role is intended for you. I understand your doubts about me. My appearance frightens and repels you. I plan to have a series of plastic surgeries to get rid of this ugliness, but I simply won't have time to do it before the wedding. You might ask why I didn't have the operations earlier. I answer, first, there was no financial possibility, then no time, then no necessity. Now all three components are present, and I am ready to go to a surgeon. So, if this bothers you, don't worry, it will be resolved positively soon. Sarah silently looked at her potential groom. She didn't even know what to answer him. Interesting. Will he always talk to himself, or will I be able to get a word in sometimes? Sarah thought with a smile for some reason. Did something amuse you? James didn't understand. No, sorry. I was thinking about something else. Sarah wriggled out of it. Although she understood that she was behaving improperly and to somehow smooth things over, she decided to support him. "You're very brave to decide on the surgery. Some people are so afraid of surgeons that they just accept it and live like that. To be honest, I had accepted it for a long time too. But I understand that a young girl would be uncomfortable being next to such a monster, so I decided on the surgery." "You're not," Sarah began. "Is it just that the scar is very noticeable and that's why you were scared when you saw me head on?" James asked. "I wasn't exactly scared, I just didn't expect it." And she mentally cursed her father. He could have warned me. "It's all right. I'm not offended. I'm used to that reaction from girls." He's strange. If he's seen that reaction from girls, why didn't he have the surgery earlier? 6 months? A year ago? He didn't get rich yesterday, Sarah mused. "Sarah, tell me, what are your hobbies? What do you like? I'd like to know more about you." Sarah briefly told him about her childhood, hobbies, and clubs. James listened attentively, as if mentally recording the information. "You've told me what you were forced to do, but I'm asking what you like for your soul. What music, what films, what cuisine do you prefer?" Sarah looked at James in surprise. "Why are you so surprised by my question?" "I didn't think you'd be interested," Sarah answered honestly. She was starting to like this man simply as a person. Of course, just liking him. There was no hint of falling in love. "Sarah, I'm not some kind of monster or Bluebeard. I'm a normal person, and I really like you very much. I first saw you 3 years ago at an event. You were with your father, and I haven't been able to forget you since. I would very much like to make you happy," James said, looking directly into her eyes. "If you allow me, of course." Sarah was silent, not knowing what to say. "If you don't like me at all or find me repulsive, I won't pursue you or anything else. I'll back off. But I would very much like to have a small chance. After all, everyone has the right to hope." The last phrase was decisive for Sarah. Just today she had said the same thing. "All right, let's try." "Thank you." He leaned over and kissed her hand. "James, let's switch to you, informal. Honestly, it's much more comfortable to talk that way, and it brings people closer," Sarah suggested. "I would be very happy if you called me you, informal," the man smiled sincerely. "Then it can just be Jim, and just Sarah," the girl smiled back. Her father returned, and they went to dinner. During dinner, the men mostly talked. Sarah sat silently, observing what was happening, and at the same time thinking about how she would meet Daniel the next day. In the morning, Sarah dialed Daniel's number. He answered almost immediately. "Hello?" a confident voice sounded. "Hello, Daniel," Sarah greeted him in a hesitant voice. "Sarah?" He recognized the girl immediately. "How glad I am that you called. How are you? Did you have any problems with your father yesterday because of me?" "No, everything's fine, don't worry. Can we meet today?" "Of course, I'd be very happy to. I'm completely free after 1 o'clock. "Excellent. Then let's meet at 2 in the Central Park by the fountain. Agreed?" "I'll be very much looking forward to seeing you." Sarah had just hung up when there was a knock on the door and her father entered. "Good morning, dear. How are you? How did you sleep?" "Good morning, Dad. Everything's fine." "What are your plans for today?" "I want to go to the salon and change my hairstyle. For some reason, I wanted to change my style. Well, new life, new hairstyle. That's what girls usually do, right? You won't object, will you?" "No, of course not. I didn't get a chance to ask you yesterday. How did you like James?" "You know, I liked him," Sarah answered honestly. "Very intelligent and attentive." "See, I told you. When are you meeting?" "I hope tomorrow," Sarah lied. "You hope?" her father repeated. "That's good. I think if you call him, it won't be a big deal." He said he'd call me himself today and we'd arrange where to meet. This was true. They had indeed agreed on that. Excellent. I'm very glad, daughter. He's a very good person. I think so too. Thank you, Daddy. Sarah got out of bed, went to her father, and kissed him on the cheek. You're a clever girl. I always knew that. Once I settle you into reliable hands, I'll be at ease. All right, run along to the shower. I'll see you for breakfast. Sarah went to the shower, rejoicing at her own quick thinking along the way. After breakfast, she returned to her room and began sorting through her wardrobe. She needed to choose an outfit that Daniel would like, but at the same time wouldn't raise questions from the staff, who would, of course, report everything to her father. If Sarah wore something too beautiful and dressy, the question would inevitably arise, why go to the salon dressed like that? So Sarah, without much thought, decided to wear light cotton trousers and a light t-shirt that perfectly emphasized her neckline but looked completely ordinary. Around 1 o'clock, Sarah left the house. She decided to use public transport instead of calling a taxi. Sarah rarely took the bus or minibus. Her father objected, but today she decided, go big or go home. And she took the bus. Sarah looked out the window with interest. Passers-by walked by, each engrossed in their own thoughts and affairs. They didn't care at all what was going on in Sarah's soul. And in the girl's soul, a real storm of emotions was raging. She was trying to figure out what to do and how to secretly meet Daniel. And although he hadn't made such a proposal yet, Sarah felt that he would definitely suggest they see each other. Having arrived at the Central Park by bus, Sarah got off and walked slowly towards the fountain. From a distance she already saw Daniel's tall figure. He was looking around. In his hands was a huge bouquet of roses. Where will I put it afterwards? It's a shame to throw them away, Sarah thought sadly. Daniel noticed the girl and waved. Sarah came closer. Hi, she simply said. Good afternoon. I'm so glad to see you. Me too, Sarah smiled. Shall we switch to you, informal, right away? Let's. Shall we walk around or go sit somewhere? Let's better sit somewhere, Sarah suggested. She understood perfectly well that walking in the park in the city centre was not the best idea. Too many people knew her. They could easily tell her father about it. And the place Daniel would take her to was unlikely to be frequented by people from her circle. She could relax there and not worry. Excellent. Today I'm inviting you, treating you, remember? Of course. Where shall we go? How about pizza? Daniel suggested. With pleasure, I love pizza, Sarah agreed. She was a little nervous, thinking about exactly where they would go. Sarah had a very sensitive stomach, so she was careful about choosing cafes and restaurants. But to Sarah's surprise, Daniel took her to a rather well-known and good pizzeria. What kind of pizza do you like? Daniel asked. With ham, mushrooms, and a double portion of cheese, Sarah smiled, and definitely with a cheese crust. Daniel's mouth dropped open in surprise. No way, are you kidding? What do you mean? Sarah didn't understand. That's my favorite pizza. So we have the same taste, Sarah smiled. They ordered a huge pizza and a glass of apple juice each. As it turned out, their tastes coincided in this too. Sarah didn't like any exotic fruits, except perhaps pineapple, and preferred to drink apple juice. Daniel said he hadn't drunk any juice except apple juice since childhood. They talked a lot. The conversation was easy and very pleasant. It turned out that their tastes coincided not only in terms of pizza and juice. They had so much in common that it felt like they were Siamese twins. That doesn't happen, Sarah said, that people are so alike. I used to think so too, Daniel smiled. They felt so good together. and despite the presence of other visitors, it seemed to them that there was no one else around at all. Sarah came to her senses when her phone rang. It was her father calling. "Hello, how's your hair? Are you still recognizable?" her father joked. Sarah suddenly realized that she needed to change her haircut somehow, otherwise she wouldn't be able to explain to her father where she had been all this time. But when she looked at the clock, she got even more scared. It was already 6 in the evening. "For now, yes, Dad. Not right now. It's a bit inconvenient to talk. Can I call you back later?" "Yes, of course. I just wanted to know how you were doing and tell you that I'm leaving tomorrow for 3 days on business. Did I mention it? I don't remember. I hope you and James behave yourselves." There was definitely irony in his voice, but concern was also present. "Don't worry, Dad. I promise you, everything will be perfectly fine." Sarah could barely contain her joy. 3 days. She would have 3 whole days with Daniel. "All right. Shall I pick you up from the salon or will you come yourself?" her father clarified. "No need, Dad. I won't be done for a while. I'll take a taxi." "Okay. See you at home." Sarah put her phone back in her purse and looked at Daniel. Never before would she have said or done what she was about to say and do in the coming days. "What are your plans for the next couple of days?" Sarah asked directly. "None so far. I'm on vacation right now. I don't have to go to work. I'm calmly writing my dissertation. Why do you ask?" "We can spend the next 2 days together." "Then—" Sarah paused, but didn't know how to continue. "Then I'm leaving for a long time, for a year, to England for an internship." "That's a shame. I'll miss you and wait. I'll wait very much. Daniel, do you have a place where no one could see or find us?" Sarah ignored his words. "My parents' country house. They're only there on weekends, and not always then. And tomorrow is Thursday, so we can go there. We have a very nice country house. My grandfather built it." It was clear that Daniel was nervous. He was an adult and understood perfectly well why a girl would want to be alone with a guy. Of course he liked the idea, but he didn't expect things to move so quickly. Even less did he expect the initiative to come from such a modest girl. And, like Sarah, he couldn't know why she really wanted to speed up this moment. "Very good. I'll buy groceries, take a taxi, and pick you up around 11. Is that okay?" Sarah had never been so decisive and confident, as if some inner force was guiding her on how to act and what to do. "Yes, of course. Excellent. Write me the address." "Actually, no, I'll call you from the taxi." Sarah was terribly nervous. She was in shock at her own behavior, but she felt that this was exactly what she had to do. "Sarah, are you sure you're all right?" Daniel worried. He saw the girl's state and felt that she was somehow different. "Yes, I'm all right, Daniel. I need to go now. We'll definitely talk tomorrow. Please forgive me." "Yes, of course, no problem. I'll wait for your call tomorrow." Sarah stood up, looked at Daniel, and smiled mysteriously. "See you tomorrow, and thank you for the wonderful lunch." Sarah left the pizzeria and headed towards the centre. There were several salons there that she occasionally visited. She urgently needed to update her hairstyle so as not to arouse her father's suspicion. Her phone rang. It was James calling. "Good evening, Sarah. How are you? How do you feel?" "Hi. Sorry, it's not convenient to talk right now. I'm at the salon. Can I call you back later?" "Yes, of course. Enjoy your transformation." Sarah went into the salon. By a stroke of luck, the stylist she periodically visited was free. Sarah asked her to shorten her hair a little and cut it differently, and at the same time handed her the bouquet of flowers. She couldn't just throw them away after all. "These are for you, just to lift your spirits," Sarah said. "Thank you so much, Sarah. Are you sure about your decision? You have a very beautiful hairstyle now. It suits you." Brenda, please, just do as I ask. All right, as you say, the bewildered girl agreed. Sarah changed her hairstyle, called a taxi, and went home. Her father was already home. Seeing his daughter, he waved to her from the garden gazebo. Sarah, come show off your transformation. Sarah entered the gazebo. Her father critically examined her new hairstyle and summarized, "Not bad, interesting, well done, it suits you." "Thank you, Dad. Are you hungry?" "No, I had a snack in the city. I'm going up. I'm very tired. All these beauty treatments are terribly exhausting," Sarah lied. "Women have their own problems and difficulties. What can you do? Beauty requires sacrifice. Go on, sunshine, rest. I'll drop by later." "Okay, I'll be waiting for you," Sarah replied and hurried to her room. She needed to figure out how to leave for 2 days tomorrow without arousing the staff's suspicion, and most importantly, what story to concoct so that the housekeeper, Mrs. Adams, would believe her and not tell her father. This was the most difficult part of her plan. Sarah lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, making up tall tales. So far, none of the versions worked, and she needed to think fast. She called her neighbor, Chloe. "Hi. Are you very busy?" "Hi, Sarah. No. Is something wrong?" "Chloe, I need your help. You're a master at these things. Can you come over?" "I'll be right there, no problem." Chloe was intrigued. Chloe was indeed a master. She had repeatedly gone away to see guys for a day or two, and always came up with such plausible stories that even her parents believed them. Now all of Sarah's hope rested on Chloe's talent for storytelling. Chloe arrived 10 minutes later. Meeting Mr. Peterson in the garden, she easily lied that she urgently needed Sarah herself and went straight to her friend's room. "So, what's happened with you?" she asked from the doorway. "Come in, close the door," Sarah requested. Chloe, unlike Sarah, lived life to the fullest. She had dropped out of university after 3 years under the pretext of not having decided on a profession. Her parents met her halfway and allowed her to take a break. Chloe was a late child, which meant she had been spoiled since birth, and the girl did whatever she wanted. True, she wasn't arrogant, didn't hang out with strange crowds, didn't drink much, and didn't smoke at all. She just loved nightclubs and fun companies. "Chloe, I need your help," Sarah began. "I already figured that out. What exactly?" "I need to run away from home for 2 days, but I don't know how to do it without arousing suspicion from the staff and questions from my father. He absolutely must not know about it, you understand?" Chloe looked at her friend intently for about 2 minutes. Sarah even started getting nervous about why she was silent for so long. "And will you tell me why?" the curious Chloe asked. Sarah hesitated. She didn't want to tell anyone, but she knew that if she didn't tell Chloe, she simply wouldn't help, and without her help, Sarah definitely wouldn't manage. "I'll tell you a secret. Just don't tell anyone, okay?" "My lips are sealed," Chloe swore, using her favorite phrase. And Sarah told her friend about Daniel and about her father's decision to marry her off to a man with a terrible scar. Chloe listened silently, only occasionally waving her hands in indignation. When Sarah finished her story about her plans for tomorrow, Chloe finally said, "Easy, and I don't understand how you agreed to get married at all." "Chloe, you know my father. It's useless." "So maybe you should run away with this Daniel." Chloe suggested the idea. She would definitely do that, but Sarah couldn't. She understood that perfectly well. "I can't. I love Dad very much. I have no one but him. How can I abandon him?" "Yes, I understand. Listen." Chloe lowered her voice to a whisper. do I understand correctly that you want to immediately move to the next stage of the relationship with this Daniel?" Sarah's face was covered in red spots from embarrassment, and she nodded silently. "Beauty," Chloe admired. "Are you really that smitten with him?" "Chloe, I just want the first man I'm with to be someone I really like, not this James. He's not a bad guy, really, but he doesn't make me feel the way Daniel does." "Wait, so he'll be your first?" Chloe couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Wow, you're a rarity, Sarah, at 22. Amazing!" "And when and with whom could I? I was always under total control. It was impossible to even go to the cinema." "Well, yes, your father certainly went overboard with the control, but never mind, I'll think now," Chloe said. She thought for exactly 10 seconds, then suddenly jumped up and ran out of the room. "Uncle George, Uncle George, can I have a word with you for a minute?" Sarah heard Chloe's voice. For a moment she even got scared. What if Chloe told her father everything? But why would she do that? Sarah asked herself. No, Chloe isn't like that. She's great and a true friend. 5 minutes later, Chloe and her father entered the room. Chloe looked triumphant. Sarah had no idea what she had come up with, but she knew that her plan, as always, had worked. "Sunshine, why didn't you ask me yourself?" her father asked, a question Sarah didn't know how to answer. Chloe immediately jumped into the conversation. "Uncle George, I just didn't know for sure if it would work out, but now it's definite, and I ran to Sarah. So, are you letting us go?" "Yes, of course, especially since I'm also leaving for 3 days. Have a good time, girls. This is your time." "Did Sarah tell you she's getting married?" "Yes, she already boasted," Chloe envied. "Well, there you go. So when else will she be able to relax with her friend but now? I think it's the perfect time." "Thank you very much, Uncle George. We'll be good girls," Chloe gushed. Her father left the room and closed the door. Sarah looked at Chloe in astonishment. "What did you tell him?" "You're a lucky friend," a pleased Chloe smiled. "The thing is, I'm going to my friend's place by the lake in the Moscow suburbs for 3 days tomorrow, and I asked him to let you go there too, like I'm bored and all that." Uncle George didn't even try to object. He was even happy that you'd be under my supervision these days. "That's great. I really got lucky. I owe you one. Thank you so much." "Oh, stop it. It's all right. Have a blast there. Don't forget to buy some wine, or better yet, champagne," the caring Chloe advised. The girls agreed to leave at 10. Sarah would have just enough time to stop by the supermarket for groceries and pick up Daniel at 11. So far, everything was going according to plan. Sarah thanked Chloe 5 times for her help, said goodbye, and went to pack her things. Now she could confidently prepare without fearing her father's questions. When Sarah finished packing her backpack, her father came into the room. "Not sleeping?" "No, Dad. Come in." "Sarah, I don't know how to say this," he began, but for some reason he fell silent. This silence frightened Sarah. She didn't know what exactly her father wanted to talk about, and it made her tense. "You'll be getting married soon, and you'll have your wedding night. I know you've never been with anyone. You haven't, have you?" "No, Dad, I haven't. But I don't want to talk about it. Honestly, I've read books. I know what you want to say. Let that remain between me and my future husband. I think we're adults and can figure it out ourselves. Besides, it's too early to talk about it. I'm not getting married tomorrow." Sarah deliberately didn't say between me and James. Deep down, she held on to the hope that things could still change. What if? "Are you sure?" her father clarified. "Yes, Dad, I'm sure." "All right, then let's drop the subject. I'm leaving early tomorrow. I won't wake you. You and Chloe look after yourselves. Behave well." "Dad, Everything will be fine, don't worry." Sarah hugged and kissed her father. She truly loved him very much and was grateful for everything he did for her, for everything except choosing her groom. In the morning, Sarah woke up at the crack of dawn. The excitement of the upcoming event was taking its toll. She quickly showered and went down for breakfast. Then she went back to her room and checked again if she had taken everything. At 9:30, Sarah was standing in the yard with a backpack in her hands. Chloe, seeing her from her window, laughed. She waved to her friend and showed that she would be out in 5 minutes. Sarah called a taxi. The friends got into the car and left. Chloe was dropped off along the way, and Sarah went to the hypermarket for groceries. Having stocked up thoroughly, as if planning a feast, and buying various delicacies, Sarah grabbed 2 bottles of champagne and headed to the checkout. Already in the taxi, she called Daniel. He answered immediately and said he was waiting for her near the entrance. After picking up Daniel, they went to the country house. Daniel's family's country house was in a surprisingly beautiful place. The house itself was small but very cozy and well maintained. A small 2-story wooden house, efficiently arranged inside, surprised Sarah. She had imagined a country house like in the movies, half abandoned. But no, the house was very nice, with all the amenities. There was even a fireplace in the house. The young people unloaded their things and all the grocery bags and went into the house. "Sarah, is someone coming to visit us?" Daniel smiled. "What do you mean?" Sarah didn't understand the question. "Well, there's enough food here for a crowd that could be fed to their heart's content for at least a couple of days. I just didn't know what we'd want, so I bought all sorts of things." "I see. A practical girl," Daniel praised. Sarah was unpacking the groceries at that moment. Suddenly she stopped and looked intently at the young man. Daniel even froze under her gaze. He felt as if Sarah was scanning him. "Sarah, are you all right?" "Yes," Sarah answered briefly and continued putting the groceries in the refrigerator. "You seem very tense." "A little," Sarah admitted honestly. Daniel walked up to her, took her hand, and took the ham from her hand. He pulled her towards him. "Sarah, my dear, don't worry. Everything will be all right with us. You'll see." He hugged her and kissed the girl for a long time. Sarah melted in his arms. They forgot about the groceries and the champagne and everything in the world and just enjoyed each other. Sarah lay on the pillow, looking at the ceiling. She felt very good. "Sarah, do you absolutely have to go to England?" "Unfortunately, yes, for 6 months, then to Belgium for the same amount of time. Everything is already arranged and paid for. My father will never agree to cancel this trip, although I want to go there less than anything right now." Tears flowed from Sarah's eyes. Daniel felt the girl's state and sat up to kiss her. And Sarah was being torn apart by a dilemma from within. Should she tell him about James or not? The girl decided to postpone this conversation for later. She didn't want to spoil the moment. "My dear, don't worry. I'll wait for you, I promise. We can talk on messengers even 10 times a day. I'm an adult, and I can certainly wait a year and wait for the one I love." How pleasant his words sounded, "the one I love." But Sarah understood that he wouldn't have to wait, or rather, there would be no one to wait for, because Sarah would become another man's wife, and he would be the one waiting for her from her trip. This realization made things even worse, and Sarah cried even louder. Daniel, not understanding the true reasons for her tears, continued to promise to wait for her return. And Sarah couldn't bear it. "Daniel, I have to tell you something. It's very important. I don't want to lie to you, so it's better to tell you now so I don't suffer and torment myself so much." She told him about her father's decision, about James, about how no one would listen to her, and about how they had no chance of being together. A stunned Daniel looked at Sarah and couldn't understand how such a thing could happen in the modern world. "Sarah, this is some kind of Middle Ages. How can your father choose a groom for you and not allow you to be with someone else? What about your feelings and desires? Does he not care at all how you'll live with him? I understand your indignation, I completely agree with it, but I really have no choice. Let's run away together." "Where? How? What about your dissertation?" "To hell with the dissertation. You are more important to me. I want to be with you. I feel like you are my other half. I've known you for 3 days, but it feels like a lifetime. Sarah, please, let's run away. Your father will forgive you later. He's your father after all." "I can't do that. I just can't. But there's another option. I'll introduce you to my father and try to convince him to give you a chance. That's a more realistic option than simply running away like a coward." "Why cowardly? We're running because you're being forced to marry someone you don't love. Those are different things." "You know what they say about changing the order of the terms. Running away is always cowardice, it seems to me, and it doesn't matter what the motives are. I'm not used to running away, and I don't want to. Let's try to fight. If it doesn't work out, then we'll think about what to do next." "All right, agreed. But remember, my offer stands." "Thank you. I'm glad you understood me." Sarah kissed Daniel, and they dissolved into each other again. For all 3 days the young people spent together, they were practically inseparable. It seemed that Sarah had a premonition that her father wouldn't allow her to be with the man she loved. "Listen, you know what I was thinking," Sarah suddenly said. "If Dad doesn't let us be together, we can still see each other, right? Are you suggesting we become lovers? You want me to share you with that monster with the scar?" "Of course I don't want that. It's just another backup option." "Sorry, but I don't like that option. I'd rather take you to Siberia than share you with someone else." "I understand." "Okay." Sarah was disappointed. She didn't want to go home, but she had to. They called a taxi and returned to the city. First, Daniel got out, and then Sarah went home. She had completely forgotten that she was supposed to return with Chloe, as they had agreed. Having driven up to the house, she got out of the car and slowly walked towards the house. At that moment, her phone rang. It was Chloe calling. "Friend, where are you?" Hi, Chloe. Just walked into the yard. I'm back." "Where are you? Are you crazy? We were supposed to come back together." Chloe snapped at her. "Well, let's say you stopped by some other friend's place on urgent business." Sarah came up with an excuse without batting an eye. "Wow, the student has surpassed the teacher." Chloe was surprised. "You're learning fast." "Chloe, I feel so bad." "What's wrong? Did he... I saw..." "No, he's the best. It's just that I absolutely don't want to go back to this atmosphere, and today that James is coming over again. I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself and will tell him to get lost." "All right, listen to my command. Don't tell anyone off and wait for me. Understand? Don't do anything stupid until I get back. I'll be there in about 2 hours." "Okay," Sarah agreed resignedly. She entered the house where a surprise awaited her. Her father and James were sitting in the living room. The last thing Sarah wanted now was to pretend and be polite to James. "Hi, everyone," Sarah said indifferently. Her father, seeing his daughter's state, jumped up from the sofa and went to her. "Sarah, dear, are you all right?" "Yes, Dad, I'm all right. I think I'm getting sick," Sarah lied easily again. It seemed she was getting the hang of it. "Go up to your room, lie down in bed." Mrs. Adams will be here soon. Tell her what you want. I'm terribly sleepy. I'm just shutting down. I'll call her later. All right, dear, get some sleep, of course. Then her father remembered his future son-in-law and said quietly, "Oh, James is waiting for you there. At least say hello." Sarah slowly walked over to James and waved. "Hi, how are you?" "Good afternoon. Thank you, I'm fine, but you don't seem to be. Perhaps you caught a cold? Maybe you want something? Tell me, I'll do anything." Sarah wanted to reply that she very much wanted him to disappear from her life forever, but she understood that he meant something entirely different. So she replied delicately, "No, I don't need anything, thank you. Sorry, I'm going up." Yes, of course. Get well soon." Sarah went up to her room, fell onto the bed, and burst into tears. She didn't know what to do now, how to live on. Daniel had clearly said he would never agree to be a lover, and Sarah was unlikely to become his wife. How could she live without the man she loved? There was only one hope left, to try to persuade her father. But what could she come up with to make him agree to meet Daniel? Sarah didn't know the answer to any question, so she fell asleep in tears. Sarah woke up around 6 in the evening. Chloe had probably come, but they told her that Sarah was asleep. She called her friend. "Will you come over?" "Are you really sick?" Chloe asked. "More like I'm feeling down. Chloe, I don't know what to do. Maybe you, the genius, can come up with something?" "Oh, this is complicated. I can't go against your father, I'm sorry. I can only support you, cover for you sometimes, but otherwise I don't even know how else to help." "All right, I'll be there soon." The girls discussed the situation for almost 2 hours, but couldn't come up with a way out. Chloe genuinely felt sorry for Sarah. She saw that her friend was distressed and restless, but she didn't know how to help her. 2 weeks passed. Sarah pretended to be sick all this time, regularly communicated with Daniel, and completely ignored James. Her father didn't pressure her, believing that his daughter was ill. The day before the weekend, Sarah finally decided to talk to her father and asked for a meeting with Daniel. Her father looked at his daughter in surprise. "Excuse me, why would I meet him? You seem to have made up your mind, or haven't you?" "No," Sarah said honestly and resolutely. "What about James?" "First, he hasn't proposed anything to me yet. Second, I haven't promised him anything. Dad, I'm asking you, please talk to Daniel. He's very good. You'll see for yourself." "All right," her father gave in. "Let him come over for dinner tonight at 7. "Thank you, Daddy." Sarah rushed to him, hugged him, and kissed him. She ran to her room to call the man she loved and tell him the good news. Daniel didn't share Sarah's joy. He sensed some trickery from her father and wasn't mistaken. When Daniel arrived for dinner, James arrived right after him. Her father had made a strategic move and also invited the potential son-in-law to dinner. Sarah was furious. She hadn't expected this from her father. "Dad, why did you do this? I asked you to talk to Daniel, not set up a circus." "No circus. I just want to hear from both contenders who can offer you what kind of future. As a father, I have the right and the duty to know what awaits my daughter, who she will live with, in what house, and under what conditions. Everything is absolutely honest and transparent. If someone is afraid or has nothing to offer, there will be no conversation." Sarah understood everything. Her father had deliberately agreed to this meeting, not just to refuse Sarah herself, but also to humiliate Daniel, so that the young man wouldn't even think of trying to win Sarah over. This was despicable, very despicable. She left the study and slammed the door. Daniel and James were sitting in the living room. They were silent, waiting for the host and his daughter to appear. Sarah entered the living room and stopped, looking at the two men who were vying for her hand and heart. One was infinitely dear to Sarah herself, the other was liked by her father. At the sight of Sarah, both stood up and froze in anticipation. Her father entered right after them, looking extremely displeased. "Good evening, gentlemen," her father began immediately. "We have gathered here to resolve a matter important to all of us." It looked foolish and pompous. Sarah felt unwell from what was happening, but she clearly couldn't influence or change the situation. "So, both of you, gentlemen, dream of having my daughter as your wife," her father continued. "But since there are two contenders for my Sarah's heart, a choice must be made. This choice will be made by me, not by her. Girls choose with their hearts, and often don't think about tomorrow, only about today. Therefore, this task has fallen to me. I'm listening. What can you offer my daughter? What kind of future? How will you impress us?" Sarah looked at her father and seemed to have forgotten how to breathe. At that moment, she simply didn't see him. She shifted her gaze to Daniel. It physically hurt her for him. He was pale. He clearly hadn't expected such humiliation. Daniel stood up abruptly and looked first at Mr. Peterson, then at Sarah, and back at his almost father-in-law. "I will not participate in this pompous circus. If you think your daughter will be happy with the one you choose, then that is your biggest mistake in life. I understand that to achieve the level of wealth you have to step over others. But to step over your own daughter and disregard her feelings, that's too much even for someone like you. Good evening." Daniel headed for the door, stopped near Sarah and said quietly, "Last offer. Let's get out of here. Come with me. You see what's happening, don't you?" "I can't," Sarah said through tears. "Then goodbye. You've made your choice." Daniel went out and slammed the door loudly. The dishes even rattled from the bang, and tears streamed from Sarah's eyes. She felt so unwell that her head spun and she fainted. Sarah regained consciousness in her room. She was lying under the covers in her favourite pyjamas. Strange. I don't remember changing, the girl thought. Getting out of bed with difficulty, Sarah put on a robe and went downstairs. Mrs. Adams immediately rushed to her. "Sarah, how are you feeling? You scared us all so much yesterday," she fussed. "All right, just a bit of a heavy head. What happened anyway?" "You fainted. We called a doctor, but he said it was nothing serious, probably from nerves. What would you like for breakfast?" "Yes, probably from nerves. Could you make me some coffee with milk, please?" Sarah was in a haze all day. In the evening, Chloe came to see her. Sarah told her what had happened yesterday. Her friend was also outraged by her father's behaviour. "I called him. He seems to have blocked me," Sarah said sadly. "And he did the right thing. After all, I betrayed him." "Stop it. What does betrayal have to do with it? What else were you supposed to do?" "I should have gone with him, probably." "And then what? Hide from your father your whole life? He would have found you anyway and brought you home by force. You know that perfectly well." "I know. But Daniel doesn't understand that. I'm so tired, Chloe. You can't imagine." "Yes, you certainly have reason to be. And this headache, some kind of nausea. Maybe you should see a neurologist. Let him prescribe something for nerves." "Nausea," Chloe clarified. "How long have you had it?" "Not long, a couple of days, but it's terribly annoying. Maybe my gastritis flared up from worry." "Sarah, when is your period due?" Sarah looked at her friend with incomprehension. "What do my periods have to do with anything? Are you joking?" "Now, were you careful in that regard with Daniel?" "No, of course not. Should I have been? I read that it's impossible to get pregnant the first time. Chloe started laughing loudly. My God, where did you read such nonsense? You can get pregnant the first time and the second time. And it wasn't just once for you, I gather? No. All right, listen up. You need to buy a pregnancy test, and urgently, while there's time to terminate if necessary. Are you serious? Terminate? I'll never do that in my life. Let my father tear me to pieces, but I won't get rid of Daniel's child. Wow, resolute. I respect that. Okay, I'll go to the pharmacy and bring you a couple of tests, and you'll do them in the morning. Then you can think. To Sarah's surprise, the tests were positive, all three of them. The girl was completely bewildered. Her resolve had vanished somewhere, and she thought with horror about what would happen when her father found out. Chloe, I think I'm done for, she told her friend on the phone. Positive? Chloe immediately understood. Yes. What do I do now? What you planned. Give birth, of course. It's dangerous to terminate at your age. And how do you tell your father this news? He'll kill me. Say the child is James's. And I'll tell James it's from the Holy Spirit. No, you need to tell James the truth. And then there are two options. Either he covers for you and acknowledges the child, or he refuses, and you'll be saved from him, and you won't get married. Either way, you win. Exactly. You're a genius as always. Sarah thanked her friend and hung up, and immediately dialed James's number. Yes, Sarah, I'm listening. Hi, I really need to talk to you. Speak, James offered. No, not on the phone. Okay, let's meet this evening. All right, is the Pegasus okay for everyone? Yes, excellent. See you there. Sarah eagerly awaited the evening. Her fate was at stake, literally. She called her father and warned him that he should have dinner without her because she was having dinner with James tonight. Her father was pleased with his daughter's behaviour and the fact that she had finally accepted his candidate. Sarah arrived at the restaurant exactly at 7. James was waiting for her at the entrance. Seeing the girl, he stepped towards her and asked anxiously, Sarah, tell me straight away, is something wrong? Yes, Sarah said directly. And I need to talk to you. Let's go in, sit down, and I'll tell you and explain everything in detail. All right, but you're scaring me, James admitted. They sat at a table in the back. Sarah looked around the room and asked unexpectedly, Do you happen to know who owns this restaurant? I do, James smiled. It's my restaurant. No way, seriously. Sarah was surprised. Absolutely. Sarah, can you tell me what happened? Yes, I can. I want to, and I must. And Sarah described the situation she was in. If you refuse to marry me, I'll understand, no problem. You're a good person, and I wouldn't want to lie to you. James looked at Sarah, barely blinking. He was in shock. The man understood that he needed to say something now, but he was so stunned that he couldn't find the words. But most importantly, he needed to make a decision. But what kind? Well, that's a serious situation, he began. Then he thought for a moment and added, I will recognize your child as mine. I won't tell your father anything, I promise you. And we will definitely get married as soon as possible before the changes in your appearance become visible. Sarah was surprised and even grateful to James. Because if he had refused her now, Sarah would have had to go through a real nightmare orchestrated by her father. And it was far from certain that Sarah wouldn't lose the child from all that stress. The child she wanted more than anything in the world, and for the sake of the child, she was ready for anything. 2 weeks later, James and Sarah got married. The wedding was loud and grand. Only at the wedding did Sarah learn that, as it turned out, her husband was the owner of a whole chain of restaurants, several factories, and was also a co-founder of 2 of her father's banks. This was truly news to her. A month after the wedding, Sarah told her father that she was expecting a child. The internship automatically had to be postponed. Her father made every effort to postpone the internship for a year. "Dad, how will I go in a year? Leave a small child for a year? Can you even imagine that?" "It's nothing serious, there are nannies," James interjected. "Respected Mr. Peterson, I'm sorry, but now my wife and I will decide where she goes and where she doesn't. I will resolve the issue of the internship. It's not a problem. If necessary, I will compensate you for the expenses. But I, just like Sarah, believe it's unreasonable to go to another country for a year, leaving a small child without a mother." Sarah looked at her husband with gratitude. He turned out to be a truly good person and supported his wife in every way. Moreover, he promised not to touch her until she gave birth. This moment surprised Sarah the most. An adult man was willing to wait for more than 6 months for someone else's child. Their family life was quiet and peaceful. In the 3rd month of pregnancy, James sent Sarah to a sanatorium, and he himself underwent surgery to remove the scar. Sarah enjoyed her wonderful condition, but sincerely worried about her husband and called him several times a day. The operation was successful, and James was soon to pick Sarah up and bring her home. After another ultrasound, Sarah learned that she would have a daughter. She was happy, even more so now. Daughters are often like their fathers, and Sarah dreamed that her girl would be no exception and would resemble Daniel. The future grandfather was also happy that he would have a granddaughter. Only James didn't express any emotions about this news, but that was understandable. There wasn't much time left until the birth. According to the doctor's calculations, Sarah was supposed to give birth around the 10th or 12th of March. A different date was given to Mr. Peterson, the 10th or 12th of May. Sarah and James agreed that so that her father wouldn't have any questions about the dates, they would pass the child off as 7 months old. Today was the 8th of March. Sarah moved around the house with difficulty due to her huge belly. She felt great, and her mood was excellent. James had gone to work, and Sarah was sorting through baby clothes, preparing them for the maternity hospital. Suddenly, she felt a pulling pain in her lower abdomen and immediately called her husband. "Jim, I don't feel well. Maybe I should call an ambulance." "You shouldn't have let the housekeeper go to her relatives for a week and stayed alone in the house. I'll call an ambulance and come myself soon. Don't do anything, just rest." "Okay, I'll wait." James arrived with the ambulance and went with his wife to the maternity hospital. Sarah was getting worse. She didn't understand why the doctors decided to perform a cesarean section. "Do whatever you want, just save my little girl," Sarah begged and cried. "Calm down, Mommy. Everything will be all right." Sarah woke up in the ward. James was sitting beside her, holding her hand and dozing in the armchair. "Jim," Sarah called faintly. "How did it go?" James lowered his eyes and didn't look at his wife at all. Sarah didn't understand what was happening. "Jim, what? Tell me," she demanded. "Sarah." "They didn't save our little girl," James said, barely holding back tears. "How can that be? They said everything would be all right." "I don't know what happened. I don't understand these things. The doctor will explain when he comes to examine you." "This can't be. No!" Sarah screamed throughout the ward and burst into hysterical crying. 2 nurses ran into the ward, then the doctor. Sarah was given an injection and she fell asleep. 4 days later, Sarah was discharged home. There was no need for her to stay in the maternity hospital anymore. Children were crying and screaming around, other people's children, living children. Sarah's heart was breaking into pieces. She wanted nothing more, dreamed of nothing. Now she didn't care at all what would happen next. Before being discharged, the doctor said that the birth had been difficult and Sarah would never have children again. Never have children. These words sounded like a sentence in her head. Sarah repeated them mentally and aloud and couldn't think of anything else. James, seeing his wife's state, decided to send her to a sanatorium in Switzerland. Sarah meekly agreed. Sarah spent 6 months in the sanatorium and practically recovered. At least she returned alive and with a desire to live on, even without children. After a short stay at home, Sarah went to England for an internship, then to Belgium. During this time, James visited his wife several times. They developed a good relationship. A year later, Sarah returned home and slowly began to get involved in her father's affairs. Her father had suddenly begun to decline. His health was failing more and more often, and 6 months after Sarah's return, her father made the final decision to hand over the business to his daughter. Now Sarah's new, very busy business life began. She completely immersed herself in business and very quickly became a worthy replacement for Mr. Peterson. 17 years passed. Sarah was now exclusively Sarah Peterson and confidently not only managed all of her father's projects, but also expanded them. Mr. Peterson had died 6 years ago, and Sarah had no other blood relatives left in this world. Her only close person was her husband James, who had never disappointed Sarah in all these years. This evening, she and Jim decided to have dinner at their restaurant, the Pegasus. Lately, Sarah had been so busy with business that she saw her husband very rarely. But today she had a relatively free evening, and the couple decided to spend it together. Sarah arrived at the restaurant earlier than her husband, and sitting at the table, scrolled through the latest news on her tablet. A waitress walked by and, stumbling, almost fell near Sarah, managing to lean on her chair. "Be careful, you'll break something like that," Sarah said kindly. "I'm so sorry." "What for?" Sarah didn't understand. "I accidentally bumped into you. I've only been working here for 2 weeks, or rather working part-time. It was awkward. Please don't tell the owner, or I'll be fired." "I won't tell, don't worry. Everyone makes mistakes." "Thank you. Have a good evening." Sarah looked closely at the girl. She had a feeling she had seen her somewhere, or knew her from somewhere. Strange. Where could I have crossed paths with such a young person? Sarah thought, but her reflections were interrupted by James, who entered the room. After dinner, when they returned home, Sarah took off her jacket and was about to hang it in the closet, but she saw that the pocket flap was turned up. Sarah didn't like it when things looked untidy, and she straightened it. But some force made her check the pocket, and she found a piece of paper folded several times inside. Sarah turned the paper over in her hands. It was clearly from a checkered notebook. She hadn't written on such paper in a very long time, so what was this and where did it come from in her pocket? Sarah slowly unfolded the paper and saw a few lines of text that were clearly addressed to her. "Sarah Peterson, your daughter, whom you gave birth to on March 8th, is alive. Your husband James arranged for you to think she died during childbirth. If you want details, call this number." And then a phone number was listed. She couldn't believe her eyes. Her daughter was alive. With trembling hands, Sarah carefully folded the paper and hid it in her purse. Her consciousness had been turned upside down. She couldn't understand how such a thing was even possible. Such an attentive, caring, loving, truly devoted man like James couldn't have done that. Sarah didn't want to believe it, but the person who wrote the note couldn't have been so mistaken. They even got the date of birth right. If it was just someone's cruel joke, the prankster would have done it much earlier. Why now? No, Something was clearly wrong here, and Sarah knew she wouldn't be able to live peacefully now without figuring out the situation. James entered the bedroom, and Sarah flinched at the sight of her husband. Now she looked at him with different eyes. Why would he do that? Sarah tried to reason. Because he knew it was someone else's child? He didn't want to raise someone else's child and just got rid of it? And he wanted to marry me? It seems clear enough. But can you just abandon a child? And how do you live afterwards? How do you sleep at night knowing that there's a person somewhere? And what kind of person? To Jim, she's nobody, so he doesn't care. But he saw how I suffered. It turns out he didn't feel sorry for me either. I married a monster. Sarah, are you all right? James asked, sitting down next to his wife. Yes, I'm all right. Sorry, I just got an idea. I'm going to do some work. Work? It's already past midnight. It's nothing serious. You go to bed. I'll be quick. Sarah left the bedroom and went to her study. She didn't feel like sleeping at all, and she needed to think. And she didn't want to talk to James in this state right now. She added the phone number from the note to her contacts and checked her messengers. In one of them, this phone number was currently online. Should I write or not write? Sarah thought. And finally, impatience won, and she wrote, "Good night. My name is Sarah Miller." She hadn't changed her surname after marriage. You listed this number as a contact if I wanted to know the details. When and where would it be convenient for you to meet me? Sarah looked at the screen hopefully and waited for a reply. Suddenly, she saw that someone was typing, and a minute later, she saw a message on the screen. "We can meet right now if you want." Now? Yes, I want to. Sarah was full of determination. She wouldn't fall asleep until morning anyway. So why sit around doing nothing? "Then come to this address," followed by the address where she would be waiting. "I can be there in 20 or 30 minutes. Is that all right?" "Yes, quite, thank you." Sarah took her phone and quickly went upstairs. She peeked into the bedroom. James was already asleep. Sarah entered the dressing room, quickly changed, went down to the garage and drove out of the yard. She arrived at the specified address exactly 20 minutes later. Sarah didn't know this area well, and the private sector didn't particularly appeal to her. She got out of the car and went to the gate. And just as she was about to open it, she suddenly heard behind her, "Well, hello, Mum." Sarah turned around, saw the same waitress girl, and lost consciousness. She woke up in a house. Apparently, she had been carried here when she fell. A woman about 55 years old was sitting nearby, knitting something with needles. She was painfully thin, barely able to stay upright, but she continued knitting slowly. "You're awake?" "Yes." Sarah sat up. She looked around. The room was poor, very poor. It was clear that the last renovation had been done here 20 years ago at least. She looked at the woman again and asked, "Excuse me, could I have some water?" "You can." The woman immediately handed her a cup of water. "And who are you?" "I am the one who raised your daughter as my own." Sarah felt as if she had been doused with ice water. She jumped up on the bed. "Please, tell me, how did it happen that I was told one thing, and in reality it was completely different?" "Your husband saw to it," the woman said quietly. "When you gave birth, he went to the head doctor and immediately said that you wouldn't be taking the child. The head doctor tried to persuade him, saying that the girl was born with excellent indicators, weighing 3 kilograms, 700 grams, 53 centimeters tall, a perfect child. But your husband said he was willing to pay any amount of money for the child to remain in this hospital forever, and for his wife not to know that she had given birth to a living and healthy child. Sarah was already crying as she listened to the woman's story. It was unbearably painful to hear, but she remained silent, not daring to interrupt or ask a single question. She had to know everything to the end. I know he paid a very large sum for those times, and we falsified the documents, stating that the girl died from asphyxia during childbirth. I couldn't have children, and my husband and I decided this was our chance. I convinced the head doctor to give the child to me so that this beautiful girl wouldn't end up in an orphanage. I know perfectly well what an orphanage is like. I grew up in one myself. The head doctor himself didn't want to send such a good baby to a children's home, so he agreed immediately. I knew who my Olivia's real parents were, but I kept silent until the end. And now I have stage 4 cancer, and I don't have much time left. I don't want my girl to be left alone with her living mother, especially since I know that what happened back then wasn't your fault. I saw you at the discharge. I wanted so much to tell you the truth, but the head doctor immediately warned that whoever told you the truth wouldn't live long. Those were your husband's words, and I was scared. I told Olivia everything when I found out she had gotten a job at your husband's restaurant. What irony of fate, right? And I don't have long left anyway. I would have told her eventually, and here's such a turn of events. I explained that you are as much a victim as she is, that she has no reason to be offended by you, and she wanted to meet you. You won't abandon her, will you? Never in my life. Sarah finally found her voice. You have no idea what you've done for me. I've been cursing myself all these years, thinking I was to blame for the child not surviving, thinking it was my punishment for lying to my father, for getting pregnant out of wedlock. My God, what haven't I thought? You've given me back the meaning of life that I lost many years ago. I don't know how to thank you. Are you sure nothing can be done about your illness? I have money. I'll pay for any operation. Wait, don't chatter so fast. No operation can help me now. The most important thing for me now is to know that you won't abandon my daughter, our daughter. The woman corrected herself. I can't abandon her. I already lost her once, even if it wasn't my fault. Good. So, I wasn't mistaken about you. Olivia, the woman called out into the room. Come here, sunshine. The same girl entered the room. Sarah got up from the bed, went to her daughter, and took her hands. Suddenly, she fell to her knees and started crying. Forgive me, please forgive me. If I had known that my husband would turn out to be such a monster, I would never have trusted him in my life. Forgive me, forgive me. Get up, don't cry. Mum told me everything. I know you're not to blame. You have nothing to ask forgiveness for. Yes, I do. If I hadn't been a coward, you would have had a completely different life, a different childhood, a different education, everything different. Is that the most important thing? I think it's much more important to grow up in a family where you are truly loved, in a family where everyone is there for each other and will never betray you. Money doesn't give you all that. I had a good childhood and good parents who gave me true love, care, affection. Things that you can never buy with any money. Yes, you are right, absolutely right. I will never say that again. She turned to the woman who had raised her daughter. Excuse me, what is your name? My name is Mrs. Green. Girls, I have a great idea. Mrs. Green, Olivia, we're packing our things and moving to my house. And no excuses are accepted, Sarah said, and added, we'll only take the most valuable things dear to your heart. We'll buy everything else. And I don't want to hear anything. I owe both of you a great debt. They moved into the house where Sarah grew up and now lived there together. Sarah divorced James. He asked for forgiveness from his wife, then from Olivia, but Sarah couldn't forgive such a betrayal. Now Sarah's completely new life began. The life she had dreamed of all these years and thought she had lost forever. But somewhere deep in Sarah's soul, hope had always flickered that not all was lost. and hope did not fail her.